Before the sun rises, before the noise of the world begins its steady hum, before the demands of the day reach for your attention, there is a sacred moment that belongs only to you. It is a quiet opening in time, a doorway between what was and what will be. And in that doorway, if you are willing, you can meet God. Not the God of fear, not the God of punishment, not the God of rules written by frightened minds, but the living presence that breathes you. The invisible intelligence that beats your heart without your permission, the silent awareness that watches your thoughts drift by like clouds across an endless sky. Every morning you awaken, and the first thought you choose becomes the architect of your day. Will you begin in scarcity, or will you begin in abundance? Will you begin as a body burdened by yesterday, or as a soul newly born into possibility? The choice is yours, and it is made in the quiet seconds before you even place your feet on the floor. When you start your day with God, you are not performing a ritual. You are remembering who you are. You are not this restless mind that replays old arguments and rehearses future worries. You are not the story you keep telling about what went wrong. You are not the mistakes, the failures, the labels that others placed upon you. You are the awareness behind all of it. You are the infinite field in which every thought appears and disappears. You are the sky, not the storm. The ego wants you to wake up and immediately enter the marketplace of comparison. It whispers, what do I need to fix? What do I need to prove? Who is ahead of me? What am I lacking? It thrives on urgency and fear. It feeds on competition and the illusion of separation. And if you listen to it first thing in the morning, you hand over the creative power of your day to a voice that has never known peace. But when you wake up and say quietly and deliberately, I am one with the source of all creation, something extraordinary happens. You shift, you return, you remember, I am are the most powerful words you will ever speak. Whatever follows them begins to shape your reality. When you say, I am tired, you instruct your body to comply. When you say, I am overwhelmed, you align yourself with chaos. But when you say, I am connected to God, you are affirming a metaphysical truth that no circumstance can erase. You are not trying to reach God. You are not trying to earn God. You are not waiting for God to arrive. You are an expression of God, individualized in form, experiencing itself as you. Imagine the ocean. Each wave rises with a unique shape, a distinct movement, a temporary identity. One wave may look larger, another smaller. One may crash dramatically against the shore, another may gently dissolve into the sand. But every wave is made of the same substance. No wave is separate from the ocean. No wave must strive to become water. It already is. You are a wave in the ocean of the divine. When you start your morning with God, you are not adding something to yourself. You are dissolving the illusion that you were ever separate. Close your eyes for a moment, even now, and feel the breath entering your body. You are not doing the breathing. It is happening. Life is breathing you. There is an intelligence orchestrating trillions of cells in perfect harmony. There is a wisdom digesting your food, repairing your skin, regulating your heartbeat. That same wisdom governs the movement of galaxies, and it lives in you. Why would you begin your day disconnected from that? The world will invite you into fear before you even brush your teeth. Notifications, headlines, expectations. The endless stream of more money, more recognition, more productivity. The ego insists that your worth is conditional, that you must earn love, that you must chase validation, that you are behind. But God whispers something different. You are already enough. You were enough before the promotion, before the relationship, before the applause, before the approval. You were enough when you first opened your eyes as a child, untouched by comparison. And you are enough now. The sun does not wake up wondering if it deserves to shine. The flowers do not hesitate before blooming. The sky does not ask permission to be vast. They express their nature effortlessly because they do not consult the ego. They simply are. And so are you. When you start your day with God, you align with your true nature instead of your conditioned identity. You become the observer of your thoughts rather than their servant. You notice the old patterns arise: resentment, doubt, self-criticism, but you no longer bow to them. You see them for what they are, echoes of a past that no longer exists. There are no justified resentments. Not because what happened was acceptable, not because pain was not real, but because holding on to resentment is like gripping a burning coal and expecting someone else to be hurt. When you awaken in the morning and carry yesterday's anger into today, you chain yourself to a moment that has already dissolved into memory. Forgiveness is not something you do for others. It is something you do to return to yourself. Each morning is an invitation to release, to say, I no longer choose to carry what does not serve my soul. To recognize that your inner peace is more valuable than being right. To understand that every grievance is an attachment to the ego's identity as victim. You are not a victim, you are a creator. Your thoughts are not passive. They are energetic instructions. They are vibrational signals sent into the field of infinite possibility. When you begin your day in gratitude, you amplify abundance. When you begin your day in trust, you invite synchronicity. When you begin your day in love, you dissolve fear. This is not positive thinking. It is alignment. The orange is a simple teacher. When you squeeze an orange juice comes out. Not because life is unfair, not because someone provoked it, but because that is what was inside. If anger pours out of you when you are squeezed by circumstance, it is because anger was within. If compassion pours out, it is because compassion lived there. The morning is your opportunity to choose what fills you before the squeezing begins. Fill yourself with God. Fill yourself with silence. Fill yourself with the awareness that you are more than this body, more than this schedule, more than this temporary role you are playing. Say to yourself, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. Feel the truth of it. You have lived before this form, and you will live beyond it. The body ages, but the soul does not wrinkle. The personality fluctuates, but the essence remains untouched. When you identify solely with the body, you fear its decline. When you identify solely with the personality, you fear rejection. But when you identify with the soul, fear begins to lose its grip. The soul always knows. It knows when you are out of alignment. It knows when you are compromising your integrity. It knows when you are shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. And it also knows when you are expanding into your authentic self. Each morning, before you speak to anyone else, speak to your soul. Ask, what would you have me do today? Where would you have me serve? How can I be an instrument of love? And then listen. Listening is an act of surrender. It requires that you quiet the mental chatter long enough to hear the subtle guidance beneath it. God does not shout. The ego shouts. God whispers. You will feel it as a nudge, a gentle idea, a sudden clarity, a calm certainty that does not need external validation. Follow that. When you start your day with God, you are not asking for a life without challenges. You are asking for the awareness that every challenge contains a lesson. You are stepping into the understanding that life is not happening to you, it is happening through you and for you. Even the difficulties are teachers. The person who tests your patience is revealing where you still seek control. The setback that disrupts your plan is teaching you flexibility. The loss that breaks your heart is opening you to compassion you did not know you possessed. Without resistance, you do not grow. Without darkness, you do not recognize light. But when you begin with God, you move through darkness differently. You do not interpret it as punishment. You see it as preparation. There is a field of infinite potential surrounding you at all times. Quantum physics calls it energy. Mystics call it consciousness. I call it God. It responds not to your words alone, but to your dominant vibration. And your vibration is set in the first moments of your awareness each day. So choose deliberately. Before your feet touch the ground, say thank you. Thank you for breath. Thank you for another opportunity to learn, to love, to evolve. Gratitude is the gateway to abundance because it acknowledges sufficiency in the present moment. And abundance is not about accumulation. It is about recognition. You cannot experience abundance while insisting that something essential is missing. You are not missing anything. You may desire growth. You may welcome change. But at your core, you are whole. The ego thrives on the illusion of incompleteness. It tells you that fulfillment lies in the future, that once you achieve a certain milestone, then you will rest, then you will feel worthy, then you will be happy. But the future is a concept. Life is now. Living in the now is not a spiritual cliche. It is the only place where God can be experienced. The past is memory, the future is imagination. But this moment, this breath is alive. When you begin your morning in presence, you anchor yourself in eternity. You realize that time is a tool, not a prison. You understand that the only point of power is here. Say to yourself, I am here. I am aware. I am connected. Feel how that shifts your energy. You do not have to chase purpose. Purpose unfolds when you align with love. You do not have to force inspiration. Inspiration flows when you remove resistance. You do not have to control outcomes. You only have to control your alignment. The sky does not struggle to hold the clouds. It allows them to pass. Be like the sky. Let thoughts come and go without attachment. Let emotions rise and fall without identifying with them. You are the vastness in which they occur. And when you forget, because you will begin again. That is the beauty of morning. It is renewal embodied. It is grace in motion. It is the universe saying, here, try again. This time, remember. Remember that you are love. Not seeking love, not earning love, but being love. Remember that what you give expands. If you offer kindness, you strengthen kindness within yourself. If you offer judgment, you reinforce judgment in your own heart. The world you experience is a reflection of the consciousness you hold. So hold love, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is misunderstood, even when it feels vulnerable, especially then. Starting your day with God is an act of courage. It means you refuse to participate in the collective anxiety. It means you choose faith over fear. It means you trust an invisible intelligence more than visible chaos. Faith is not blind belief. It is inner knowing. It is the quiet certainty that there is an order beyond appearances. It is the willingness to walk forward without seeing the entire staircase. You are supported in ways you cannot yet perceive. There are forces aligning on your behalf when you choose alignment within yourself. Synchronicities are not accidents, they are confirmations. When you walk in harmony with your highest self, life begins to cooperate. This does not mean every desire manifests instantly. It means you begin to desire differently. You crave peace more than possessions. You value connection more than comparison. You seek meaning more than status. And in that shift, you find freedom. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the absence of inner compulsion. It is living from intention rather than reaction. It is responding from love rather than fear. Each morning, before the world defines you, define yourself. I am peaceful. I am guided. I am abundant. I am a channel for divine love. Do not say these words mechanically. Feel them. Embody them. Let them saturate your consciousness until they become your natural state. You are not here to shrink. You are not here to compete for crumbs of approval. You are not here to repeat unconscious patterns inherited from generations before you. You are here to awaken. Awakening is not dramatic. It is subtle. It is the gradual realization that the voice in your head is not who you are, that the roles you play are temporary costumes, that the essence of you is timeless, limitless, and intimately connected to all that is. When you start your day with God, you step into that awareness intentionally. You choose to live from your highest self rather than your smallest fear. And as you do, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to mirror your inner transformation. Relationships soften. Opportunities emerge. Obstacles reveal hidden blessings. Not because the world changed first, but because you did. Everything is energy. And when you shift your internal state from scarcity to abundance, from fear to trust, from ego to soul, you alter the frequency you emit, and life responds accordingly. So tomorrow morning, before the rush, before the noise, before the old habits, reclaim your attention, pause. Place your hand over your heart, breathe, and remember that you are a divine being. Remember that you are connected to an infinite source. Remember that this day is not a burden but a gift. Remember that you are not alone. Start your day with God, and you will walk through the world as light. Not because you are perfect, not because you are without struggle, but because you know who you are. And when you know who you are, no external circumstance can define you. You are the ocean in motion. You are the sky watching the storm. You are the awareness behind the thought. You are the love you seek. Begin there. Begin every day there. And watch how your life transforms, not through force, but through remembrance. Listen every day, not to the noise of fear, but to the whisper of the divine within you, guiding you home. And as you continue along this sacred path of beginning each day in communion with the divine, you will start to notice something subtle yet profound unfolding within you. The outer world may still move at its hurried pace. Deadlines will still exist. Responsibilities will still call your name. But there will be a stillness underneath it all, like the quiet depth beneath the surface of a vast lake. The winds may ripple the top, but far below, there is calm. That depth is your true home. Most people live at the surface of their lives. They identify with the ripples. They react to every passing breeze. A single comment can disturb their peace. A minor inconvenience can color their entire day. But when you root yourself in the eternal each morning, you begin to live from the depths rather than the surface. You respond instead of react. You observe instead of absorb. You remain centered while the world spins. This inner anchoring changes how you see others. You begin to recognize that every person you meet is also carrying invisible burdens, unspoken fears, and silent prayers. The rude driver, the impatient colleague, the distant partner, each one is acting from their own level of awareness. When you start your day aligned with God, compassion becomes your natural posture. You no longer need to win every interaction. You no longer feel compelled to defend every opinion. You become spacious. And in that spaciousness, grace enters. Grace is not something you earn, it is something you allow. It is the effortless support that flows when you stop resisting what is. The ego is constantly in opposition, arguing with reality, insisting that this moment should be different. But reality has already occurred. The present moment is not negotiable. Your resistance only tightens the knot of suffering. When you rise each morning and surrender your will to the higher wisdom within you, you loosen that knot. You say, in essence, use me, guide me, show me. And life begins to unfold with a softness you may have never known before. You will still encounter uncertainty. You will still face decisions that stretch you beyond your comfort zone. But instead of being paralyzed by doubt, you will feel an undercurrent of trust. Trust that you are being directed. Trust that even missteps are part of a larger choreography. Trust that there is intelligence woven into every encounter. This trust is not naive optimism, it is spiritual maturity. It is the understanding that you are not a random accident drifting through a chaotic universe. You are an intentional expression of infinite consciousness. You are here on purpose, with purpose. Even if that purpose reveals itself one breath at a time, the mind will occasionally attempt to reclaim control. It will ask, what if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I lose what I love? But fear is always a projection into a future that does not yet exist. When you are anchored in divine awareness, you see fear as a mental habit, not a prophecy. You gently bring your attention back to the present, back to your breath, back to the awareness that is watching the fear. And in that returning, you reclaim your power. There is extraordinary strength in gentleness. The world often equates strength with aggression, with dominance, with force. But consider water. It is soft, yielding, formless, and yet over time, it shapes mountains. It carves canyons. It sustains all life. Its power lies in its persistence and its alignment with its nature. When you begin your day connected to God, you become like water. Flexible, yet unstoppable. Calm, yet deeply powerful. You stop trying to bulldoze your way through obstacles and instead flow around them. You trust timing. You trust rhythm. You trust the unseen currents guiding you. And something else begins to shift, your relationship with yourself. So many people carry an inner critic that never rests. It replays mistakes, magnifies imperfections, compares relentlessly. It speaks in a tone that you would never use with a child, yet you direct it inward without hesitation. But when you remember your spiritual identity each morning, self-compassion naturally arises. You realize that growth is not a straight line. You recognize that you are evolving, learning, expanding. You stop measuring your worth by productivity or perfection. You start honoring your sincerity, your effort, your willingness to awaken. This gentler relationship with yourself radiates outward. When you are no longer at war within, you cease projecting conflict onto others. Peace becomes contagious. Your presence alone begins to soothe. Have you ever been around someone whose calm felt almost tangible? Someone who did not rush to fill silence, who did not react impulsively, who seemed grounded in something deeper than circumstance. That is not an accident. That is a person who has learned to root themselves in the sacred before engaging with the world. You can be that presence, not by pretending to be serene, not by suppressing emotion, but by consistently returning to your source, by making your morning communion non-negotiable, by valuing inner alignment more than outer approval. As days turn into weeks and weeks into months, this practice reshapes your life in ways that are both subtle and profound. You may notice that certain conflicts dissolve without confrontation. You may feel drawn toward new opportunities that resonate more deeply with your authentic self. You may release relationships or habits that no longer reflect who you are becoming. This is not loss. It is refinement. When a sculptor creates a masterpiece, they remove what does not belong. The excess stone falls away, revealing the form that was always present within. Starting your day with God is like placing your life in the hands of a master sculptor. Gradually, gently, what is false begins to crumble. What is essential remains. You are not being diminished. You are being revealed. And as you are revealed to yourself, fear begins to lose its authority. You realize that the worst thing that can happen is not failure or rejection, it is forgetting who you are. And because you are choosing remembrance each morning, you are protected from that deepest loss. The world may still test you, storms may still arise, but your foundation is no longer built on shifting sand. It is anchored in something eternal, something that existed before your name was spoken and will continue long after your final breath. There is immense freedom in living from that awareness. You no longer cling so tightly to outcomes. You participate fully, you give your best, you act with integrity, and then you release. You allow life to respond in its own mysterious way. This release is not indifference. It is confidence. It is knowing that your value does not fluctuate with external results. It is understanding that you are a conduit, not the ultimate controller. When you internalize this truth, gratitude becomes spontaneous. Even ordinary moments begin to shimmer with quiet beauty. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the rhythm of your footsteps, the sound of laughter. You begin to experience life not as a problem to be solved, but as a miracle to be witnessed. And that is the true transformation. Not that your circumstances magically rearrange themselves overnight, but that your perception expands. You see with new eyes. You listen with a softened heart. You move through the world as both participant and observer, fully engaged yet inwardly free. Each dawn becomes a sacred reset. Each breath becomes a reminder. Each encounter becomes an opportunity to express the love that flows through you. You realize that heaven is not a distant destination. It is a state of consciousness available here and now. And you access it not by striving, but by remembering, by choosing again and again to align with the divine essence within you before you align with the demands outside you. So continue waking with intention. Continue placing your awareness gently on the presence that animates you. Continue affirming your unity with something vast and benevolent. Let your mornings be a sanctuary. And as you walk into the world each day from that sanctuary, you will not merely exist, you will radiate. You will not merely survive, you will uplift. You will not merely pass through time, you will transform it by the quality of your consciousness. This is the power of beginning with God. It is not a ritual. It is a return to truth, a return to love, a return to the boundless being you have always been. As it, what comes out? Orange juice. Not because you demanded it, not because you wished it, but because that is what was inside all along. In the same way, when life squeezes you during periods of waiting, when opportunities delay, when relationships stall, when answers seem suspended, what comes out of you? Is it fear? Is it resentment? Is it doubt? Or can it be faith? Can it be patience? Can it be the deep knowing that you are more than your circumstances? The waiting does not create your character, it reveals it. And if impatience flows out of you, it is simply showing you where healing is still required. This is not a cause for shame. It is an invitation for awareness. You see, the ego defines you by what you have achieved, what you possess, how quickly you succeed. But your spiritual identity is not rooted in outcomes. You are not a human being trying to earn divine approval. You are a divine being having a human experience. You are already connected to the source from which all blessings flow. And if that is true, then what could possibly be missing? If you are an extension of the same intelligence that paints sunsets and shapes mountains, then how could your life be an accident? The waiting is not evidence of abandonment. It is evidence that something unseen is aligning on your behalf. Consider the ocean. On the surface, waves crash and churn. There is noise and motion and turbulence. But descend just a few feet beneath, and you enter stillness. Go deeper, and there is profound calm. Your ego lives at the surface, reacting to every ripple. Your soul dwells in the depths, anchored in eternal peace. When you are waiting for something, a breakthrough, a healing, a partner, a calling, you can choose where you reside. Will you live at the surface, tossed about by each passing thought? Or will you sink into the depths of your being, where trust is natural and surrender is effortless? Surrender is not weakness. It is strength beyond comprehension. The ego believes surrender means defeat, but surrender, in spiritual truth, means alignment. It means saying, I release my need to dictate the how and the when. I choose to align with the wisdom that sees beyond my limited view. When you cling tightly to your own agenda, you contract. When you release, you expand. And expansion is your natural state. The universe itself is expanding. Life is forever unfolding into more. Why would your path be any different? There are moments in life when you pray for immediate answers. You plead for clarity. You beg for signs. And sometimes the response is silence. But silence is not absence. Silence is sacred. It is in silence that intuition whispers. It is in silence that guidance arises. If every request were granted instantly, you would never develop the spiritual muscles of patience and faith. Waiting stretches you. It refines you. It teaches you to find contentment not in the arrival, but in the journey itself. Ask yourself gently, who would I be if I trusted completely? Who would I be if I believed that every delay carried hidden wisdom? The ego says, I will relax when it happens. The soul says, relax now because it is already unfolding. The ego postpones peace. The soul embodies peace. And peace is not the result of circumstances aligning perfectly. Peace is the recognition that even when circumstances are unclear, you are eternally supported. You are not waiting for your life to begin. Your life is happening now. The divine is not withholding your good. The divine is weaving it together in ways your finite mind cannot yet comprehend. Think of the sky. Clouds may gather and obscure the sun, but the sun does not disappear. It remains shining steadily, whether you can see it or not. In the same way, God's grace is constant. Your inability to perceive it does not negate its presence. Your waiting is like the cloudy sky, temporary, shifting, passing, but the light behind it is eternal. There are no accidents in timing. What arrives too early would overwhelm you. What arrives too late would no longer serve you. There is a divine choreography at work, synchronizing events, people, and opportunities with impeccable precision. When you trust this, anxiety loosens its grip. You no longer need to force doors open. You no longer need to manipulate outcomes. You can simply show up, aligned and open, ready to receive what is already on its way. The ego feeds on comparison during the waiting. It looks at others and says, why them? Why not me? But comparison is the thief of spiritual alignment. You do not know the curriculum of another soul. You do not see the lessons they have chosen, nor the timing of their unfoldment. Your path is uniquely designed for your growth. The flower does not envy the tree. The river does not resent the mountain. Each fulfills its purpose in its own time, and so will you. Trust is not passive. It is active surrender. It is choosing faith in the face of uncertainty. It is affirming, I am guided. I am supported. I am exactly where I need to be. These are not empty words. They are declarations of alignment. When you repeat them, you shift your energy from scarcity to abundance. You move from fear to love. And love is the highest vibration. Love trusts. Love allows. Love believes in unseen possibilities. The waiting often strips away illusions. It reveals attachments you did not realize you had. It exposes the ego's need for validation. And in that exposure, you are given the opportunity to heal. If you can find peace before the blessing arrives, then the blessing will no longer define you. It will simply enhance what is already whole within you. This is the great secret. You are not waiting to become enough. You are already enough. What you desire is not meant to complete you. It is meant to express through you. When impatience arises, observe it without judgment. Say to yourself, "Ah, there is my ego seeking control." And then return to your breath. Return to the present moment. The present moment is the only place God can meet you. Not in the imagined future, not in the replayed past, but here, now. This breath is sacred. This heartbeat is sacred. This moment of waiting is sacred. What if the waiting is where you learn to hear your soul most clearly? What if the pause is preparing you for a reality far greater than the one you are currently imagining? The caterpillar must remain in the cocoon longer than it would prefer. But if it forced its way out too soon, its wings would not be strong enough to carry it. Your waiting is strengthening your wings. Trust God with your waiting. Surrender it to Him. Not because you are powerless, but because you recognize the greater power within and around you. The same intelligence that beats your heart without your effort is capable of orchestrating your destiny without your anxiety. Let go of the illusion that you must figure it all out. You are not the architect of the universe. You are a participant in its magnificence. And in this participation, you are invited to embody faith. Faith is not blind belief. It is inner knowing. It is the quiet certainty that even when the path is unclear, you are being led. Each delay, each detour, each closed door is redirecting you towards something aligned with your highest good. The ego calls it setback. The soul calls it guidance. When you surrender your waiting, you reclaim your peace. You stop bargaining with the future. You stop resisting the present. You begin to live as if what you seek is already seeking you. Because it is, the universe is not conspiring against you. It is conspiring for you. Every unseen movement is aligning circumstances in your favor. Say it softly within yourself. I trust the timing of my life. I trust the wisdom of the divine. I trust that what is meant for me cannot miss me. Feel the energy of those words. They are not hopeful wishes. They are statements of spiritual law. What aligns with your soul will find its way to you, and what passes you by was never part of your highest path. In the waiting, you discover who you truly are. Not a fearful mind scrambling for control, but an eternal being anchored in faith. Not a victim of delayed outcomes, but a co-creator aligned with divine order. The waiting is not empty space. It is holy ground. It is where trust is born. It is where surrender deepens. It is where your identity shifts from ego to essence. So breathe. Release your grip. Let the timeline dissolve. Allow the mystery to unfold. You do not need to see the entire staircase to take the next step. You only need to trust that the step beneath your foot is secure. And it is. You are guided. You are supported. You are loved beyond measure. Trust God with your waiting. Surrender it to Him. In that surrender, you will find not delay, but peace. Not absence, but presence. Not emptiness, but quiet transformation. And one day, you will look back at this season of waiting and realize it was never a void. It was the sacred space where your faith became unshakable, where your heart expanded, where your soul remembered its eternal connection to the source of all things. And in that remembrance, you will smile gently, knowing that the waiting was never about the arrival, it was about awakening. And as you remain in that awakening, something subtle begins to change within you. The urgency that once tightened your chest begins to soften. The restless questioning of when slowly dissolves into the sacred inquiry of who am I becoming through this? And that question, that gentle redirection inward, is where the miracle truly begins. Because the divine is never as concerned with the arrival of your desire as it is with the evolution of your consciousness. You see, every season of apparent delay is shaping the container that will hold your blessing. If the vessel is fragile, the gift would shatter it. If the heart is unprepared, the opportunity would overwhelm it. So life, in its infinite wisdom, refines you quietly. It sands down the rough edges of fear. It dissolves the arrogance of self-will. It loosens the grip of attachment. And what remains is a being more spacious, more surrendered, more capable of receiving without clinging. There is a profound difference between waiting with resistance and waiting with reverence. Resistance feels like standing in a storm, shouting at the sky. Reverence feels like standing beneath that same sky, knowing the clouds are temporary. When you resist, you contract. When you revere the process, you expand. And expansion is the natural movement of the soul. The oak tree does not resent the winter that strips its leaves. It knows that beneath the frozen surface, life is reorganizing itself for spring. So too is your life reorganizing itself beneath appearances. The ego demands visible progress. It measures worth by milestones. It calculates success by speed. But the soul understands that transformation often happens in invisibility. A child in the womb does not announce its development day by day, yet in that hidden sanctuary, entire systems are forming, bones are strengthening. A heartbeat is establishing rhythm. In silence, life is preparing itself for emergence. Can you trust that something just as intricate is forming within you? What if the very stillness you are experiencing is calibrating you to a higher frequency? What if you are being tuned like a finely crafted instrument so that when the symphony of your next chapter begins, you resonate perfectly with it? Impatience would rush the melody, fear would distort the notes, but surrender allows harmony, and harmony is the language of the divine. When you release your insistence on outcomes, you begin to notice the quiet gifts hidden in the present. You notice the softness of morning light touching your face. You notice the rhythm of your breath rising and falling like gentle waves. You notice that you are alive in this moment, sustained by a force you did not create and cannot control. That awareness alone is enough to dissolve anxiety. For if the same power that animates your breath has carried you this far, why would it abandon you now? There is an ancient truth whispered across spiritual traditions, that what you seek is seeking you. Not in desperation, not in lack, but in divine reciprocity. The longing in your heart is evidence of alignment, not deficiency. The desire was planted within you for a reason, but it is not meant to be pursued with tension. It is meant to be allowed with trust. Like a magnet drawing iron filings, your alignment will attract what matches your vibration. When you dwell in faith, you become a field of attraction for grace. And yet, sometimes the waiting feels heavy. There are nights when doubt creeps in like a shadow at the edge of your awareness. In those moments, do not fight the shadow. Simply turn toward the light within. The shadow has no substance of its own. It is only the absence of illumination. Bring awareness to your thoughts. Ask gently, is this thought rooted in love or fear? If it is fear, let it pass like a cloud, drifting across the vast sky of your consciousness. You are the sky, not the cloud. The sky is never harmed by passing weather. When you identify with the sky-like nature of your being, you realize that circumstances are temporary visitors. They come and go. They shift and change. But the essence of who you are remains steady, expansive, untouched. From that vantage point, waiting loses its sting. It becomes simply another experience moving through the infinite awareness that you are. Trust deepens when you recognize that you are not navigating this life alone. There is an intelligence woven into every atom of existence, coordinating events beyond your comprehension. What appears as coincidence is often quiet orchestration. A missed opportunity redirects you to a more aligned path. A closed door nudges you toward a hidden entrance. What you interpret as delay may actually be protection. And protection, though sometimes disguised, is an expression of love. The mind may argue, but I have been patient. I have believed. Why has nothing changed? And here is where spiritual maturity blossoms. Faith is not transactional. It is not a bargaining chip exchanged for outcomes. Faith is a state of being. It is the unwavering recognition that your life is guided regardless of external evidence. When you anchor into that recognition, you no longer measure progress by visible results. You measure it by inner peace. And inner peace is the greatest wealth you will ever possess. It cannot be taken from you unless you relinquish it. It does not depend on circumstances aligning perfectly. It arises from alignment with your true nature. When you are at peace in the present, you are already living in abundance. The future becomes a continuation of that abundance, not a remedy for lack. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast field at dawn. The horizon stretches endlessly before you. You cannot see every path, every curve of the terrain, every hidden valley. But you trust that as you step forward, the ground will meet your feet. You do not demand a complete map. You move with quiet assurance. That is what it means to surrender your waiting. It is stepping forward without complete visibility, guided by an inner compass that never fails. The ego fears uncertainty because it equates uncertainty with danger. But uncertainty is the birthplace of possibility. If everything were predetermined in visible form, there would be no room for miracles. The unknown is not your enemy. It is the canvas upon which grace paints its masterpieces. And your willingness to remain open within the unknown invites those masterpieces into your life. Let your waiting become a sacred partnership with the divine. Instead of asking, why is this taking so long, ask, what is this teaching me about trust? Instead of pleading for acceleration, inquire, how can I embody gratitude right now? Gratitude is the bridge between present awareness and future fulfillment. When you are grateful before the manifestation, you demonstrate faith in its inevitability. There is a profound liberation in releasing the need to predict. You are freed from the exhausting task of micromanaging destiny. You are freed from the tension of comparing timelines. You are freed from the illusion that your worth is tied to speed. In that freedom, creativity awakens. Joy returns. You begin to live not in anticipation of life, but in participation with it. And as you continue to surrender, you may notice a gentle paradox. The more you let go, the more life flows toward you effortlessly. Opportunities arise without force. Connections deepen without manipulation. Solutions appear without strain. This is not coincidence. It is the natural result of alignment. When you are no longer pushing against the current, you move with it. And the current of the divine is always moving toward expansion, toward love, toward growth. Trusting God with your waiting does not mean you become passive. It means you act from inspiration rather than desperation. You take steps guided by intuition rather than fear. You follow nudges that feel expansive rather than urgent. Inspiration carries a sense of calm certainty. Desperation carries tension. Learn to discern the difference. Your soul speaks softly, but its guidance is unwavering. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked by the universe. You are unfolding. And unfolding cannot be rushed. A flower forced open before its time would tear its own petals. But given the right conditions, it opens effortlessly, revealing beauty that was always encoded within it. In the same way, your life is blossoming according to a rhythm far wiser than your impatience. Allow yourself to rest in that rhythm. Let your breath anchor you to this sacred now. Let your heart soften into trust. You are held by something vast and benevolent. The waiting is not an empty corridor leading nowhere. It is a sacred chamber where your faith is refined, your vision clarified, your spirit strengthened. And as you continue walking this path of surrender, you will begin to sense a quiet joy rising from within, a joy not dependent on outcomes, not tethered to timelines, but rooted in connection. Connection to source, connection to purpose, connection to the infinite intelligence that has never once ceased guiding you. In that connection, you discover that the true gift was never the thing you were waiting for. The true gift is the awareness that you are eternally supported, eternally guided, eternally loved. And from that awareness, you step forward, not anxious for what comes next, but confident that whatever unfolds will be precisely what your soul requires. So rest in trust, walk in quiet faith. Let your waiting be an altar upon which you lay your fears and reclaim your freedom. For in surrendering your timeline, you have aligned yourself with eternity. And eternity has always been on your side. And as you continue to soften into this sacred alignment, something luminous begins to awaken in the quiet spaces of your being. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself with thunder or spectacle. It arrives gently, like dawn spreading light across a dark horizon. You begin to sense that you are not suspended in delay, you are suspended in divine intelligence. You are not paused, you are positioned. There is a difference. To be paused feels powerless. To be positioned is purposeful. When you understand that every apparent standstill is actually placement, your entire inner landscape changes. The waiting is no longer a hallway of uncertainty. It becomes a sanctuary of preparation. You are being placed where your next evolution can take root. You are being aligned with circumstances that match the frequency of your expanding awareness. The ego trembles when it cannot see movement. It interprets invisibility as absence, but the most powerful forces in existence are unseen. You cannot see gravity, yet it holds galaxies in place. You cannot see love, yet it transforms human hearts. You cannot see the breath entering your lungs, yet it sustains your life with unwavering loyalty. Why then would you require visible proof that God is moving in your life? What if the waiting is the invisible gravity aligning your destiny? Imagine the ocean again, vast and boundless. On its surface, storms may rage, ships may struggle, waves may crash against one another with chaotic intensity. But deep beneath, there is a current, ancient, steady, purposeful. That current moves with intelligence far beyond the turbulence above. When you trust God with your waiting, you are choosing to identify with that deep current rather than the surface waves. You are choosing depth over drama, stillness over reaction, faith over fear. And in that depth, you begin to notice that your identity shifts. You are no longer the anxious seeker scanning the horizon for signs. You become the anchored soul resting in divine timing. There is dignity in that posture. There is grace in that surrender. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows that their life is not random, it is orchestrated. The mind may still whisper its old questions. What if it never happens? What if I am overlooked? What if I am forgotten? But these are echoes of an outdated story. They are remnants of a belief system rooted in separation, and separation is the greatest illusion the ego has ever created. You are not separate from the source of creation. You are an individualized expression of it. The same intelligence that guides the migration of birds and the unfolding of seasons lives within you as intuition. And intuition does not panic. Intuition does not rush. Intuition knows. There is a knowing inside of you that transcends logic. It is the gentle inner voice that says, "Be still." It is the subtle reassurance that arises in the middle of uncertainty and whispers, "All is well." That voice is not naive optimism. It is spiritual memory. It is the remembrance of who you truly are, eternal, connected, sustained by something immeasurable and benevolent. The waiting becomes sacred when you realize it is dissolving your false identity. It is loosening your attachment to roles, outcomes, and labels. It is gently stripping away the belief that your worth is measured by accomplishment. In the stillness, you are invited to rediscover yourself without the noise of achievement. Who are you when there is nothing to prove? Who are you when there is no timeline to chase? You are presence. You are awareness. You are being itself. And being is enough. When you surrender your waiting, you are not surrendering your dreams. You are surrendering your insistence on controlling the route. You are allowing your dreams to mature in divine soil rather than forcing them through the cracks of impatience. A fruit plucked too early is bitter. A fruit allowed to ripen under the sun becomes sweet and nourishing. Trust that your life is ripening. There is cinematic beauty in this unfolding. Imagine yourself standing in a vast landscape at twilight. The sky is painted with hues of gold and violet. The air is still. You do not see the full path ahead, but you feel something sacred in the atmosphere, a quiet expectancy, like the earth itself is holding its breath before night descends. That expectancy is not tension. It is reverence. It is the knowing that something magnificent is taking shape beyond your immediate perception. The universe does not rush masterpieces, and you are a masterpiece in progress.